I, 29F, felt the telltale gush of water down my legs while I was taking the trash out. It was a warm, unmistakable flood, and my heart started hammering against my ribs. The baby was coming. It was finally time. I had been married to my husband, Mark, for 3 years, and for the last 9 months, this moment was all we had talked about. Or rather, it was all I had tried to talk about. He and his mother, Carol, had their own ideas. I dropped the plastic bag on the wet pavement, a dull thud in the quiet evening. A contraction seized my lower back, sharp and insistent. I gasped, leaning against the brick wall of our house. I needed to get inside. I needed to call my doctor. I needed my husband. I fumbled for my phone with shaking hands, but realized I had left it on the kitchen counter. My keys were in my purse, also inside. It was a chilly evening, and I was only wearing a thin t-shirt and sweatpants. Another contraction hit, stronger this time. I cried out a small, pained sound. I stumbled to the front door and twisted the knob. It was locked. I pressed the doorbell, hearing the faint chime inside. I waited. Nothing. I pressed it again, holding the button down for a long, desperate moment. Still nothing. Panic began to bubble in my chest, hot and acidic. They were inside. I had just seen Mark and Carol through the window, sitting at the dining room table not 5 minutes ago. "Mark," I called out, my voice trembling. "Mark, it's me." My water broke. I banged on the door, my fist striking the solid wood. The sound seemed to be swallowed by the night. I could hear the television murmuring from within. They had turned it on. They were ignoring me. I could not understand. Why would they lock the door? I never locked the door when I was just stepping out for a second. It must have been Carol. She was obsessed with security, always telling me I was too careless, too trusting. But Mark was there. He knew I was just taking out the trash. "Please open the door," I begged, my forehead resting against the cool wood. "The baby is coming. I need my phone." The pain was getting worse. The contractions were coming faster now, a relentless rhythm of agony. I was scared. I was alone. I shuffled around to the side of the house, peering into the dining room window. The curtains were drawn. I could see their shadows moving behind the thin fabric. They were there. They were right there. Why were they not answering? A cold, terrifying thought began to form in my mind. This was not an accident. This felt deliberate. This whole situation with Carol had been a nightmare from the start. She had moved in with us 3 months ago, after her apartment building had a small fire. It was supposed to be for a few weeks, just until she found a new place. But weeks had turned into months, and she had made herself comfortable in our home. She rearranged my kitchen. She criticized my cooking. She told Mark I was not taking proper care of myself during the pregnancy. He, of course, believed her. He always believed her. His mother was perfect in his eyes. I was just the overly emotional, pregnant wife who did not understand their special bond. I remembered an argument we had last week. I had bought a beautiful wooden crib, one I had saved up for myself. I spent an entire afternoon assembling it. When Carol saw it, she sneered. "That color is so drab," she had said, running a hand over the smooth wood. "A baby needs bright, stimulating colors. Not this depressing brown." I had tried to stay calm. "I like it," I said. "And it's one of the safest models on the market." She had waved her hand dismissively. "Safety is one thing, but you have to think about the child's development." My Mark had a lovely blue and yellow nursery. He was a very happy baby. Later that evening, Mark had approached me. "Honey, Mom has a point," he had started, in that gentle, placating tone he used when he was about to side with her. "Maybe we could paint the crib. Or get a different one. She knows a lot about babies." "I am the baby's mother, Mark," I had said, my voice tight. "I get to choose the crib. I like this 1 inch." He had sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You are being so difficult lately. You are making things so tense. Can you not just try to get along with her? She is only trying to help." That was his favorite line. She is only trying to help. She was not helping. She was taking over. And he was letting her. Now, I was locked out of my own house, in labor, and the two of them were inside, ignoring my pleas. The pain was blinding. I slid down the wall, my back scraping against the rough brick, until I was sitting on the cold, damp ground. I had to think. I could not stay here. My baby was coming. I needed help. My neighbor's lights were on. Mrs. Gable. She was an elderly woman, kind but a little nosy. I did not want to bother her, but I had no choice. I pulled myself up, using the wall for support. Each step was an effort. The world seemed to shrink to the space of my own pain. I made it to her porch and rang her doorbell. Thank God, she answered almost immediately. Her face, wrinkled and kind, registered shock when she saw me. Oh, my dear, she said, her eyes wide. What is the matter? You are as white as a sheet. My water broke, I gasped out. I'm locked out. I need to call for help. Can I please use your phone? Of course, you poor thing, she said, bustling me inside. Come in, sit down. Oh, this is terrible. Locked out at a time like this. She led me to a floral armchair, and I sank into it gratefully. The warmth of her house was a small comfort. She handed me her cordless phone, her hand trembling slightly. I tried to dial my doctor's office, but my fingers were clumsy and stiff. Another contraction ripped through me, and I dropped the phone, crying out. Mrs. Gable took the phone from my lap. Let me, dear, she said gently. What is the number? I recited it between clenched teeth. She spoke to the nurse, her voice calm and efficient, explaining the situation. After a moment, she hung up. They said an ambulance is on its way. It should be here in 10 minutes. They said not to worry. Just try to breathe. Try to breathe. It was all I could do. The minutes stretched into an eternity. Mrs. Gable brought me a glass of water and a cool cloth for my forehead. She was a stranger, and she was showing me more kindness than my own husband. The thought was a fresh wave of pain, sharper than any contraction. The wail of a siren grew closer, a sound that was both terrifying and a profound relief. The paramedics were professional and quick. They helped me onto a stretcher, their faces a blur of calm concern. As they carried me out of Mrs. Gable's house, I looked over at my own. The lights were still on. The curtains were still drawn. Nothing had changed. It was as if I did not exist. In the ambulance, one of the paramedics, a woman with kind eyes, took my hand. We're going to take good care of you, she said. Is there anyone we can call for you? Your husband. The question felt like a slap. I shook my head, tears finally spilling over and running down my temples.
No, iwi esperat.
There is no one. At the hospital, everything was a whirlwind of activity. Nurses and doctors moved around me, their voices a low, steady hum. They hooked me up to monitors, checked my progress. The pain was a constant, roaring wave, but underneath it was a cold, hard knot of anger. They had left me. They had abandoned me when I needed them most. What kind of person does that? What kind of husband? What kind of son lets his mother treat his pregnant wife this way? I needed my phone. I needed to see what was going on. I asked a nurse if there was any way to contact my husband, just to get my phone. I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, this was all a terrible misunderstanding. Maybe the doorbell was broken. Maybe their phones were on silent. The nurse was kind enough to use her own phone to call Mark. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. I am so sorry, honey, she said, her expression full of pity. Do you have another number we can try? His mother, I said, my voice flat. Her name is Carol. The nurse called Carol's number. It also went to voicemail. The tiny flicker of hope died. There were no excuses. This was intentional.
They were punishing me for something.
For being difficult.
For not wanting to paint the crib.
For standing up for myself. I remembered all the little things. The way Carol would forget to buy the decaf coffee I liked. The way she would accidentally shrink my maternity clothes in the wash. The way Mark would laugh it off and tell me I was being too sensitive. It was not sensitivity. It was a pattern. A cruel, deliberate campaign to make me feel small and powerless in my own home. And I had let it happen. I had tried to keep the peace. I had tried to be the bigger person. And this was my reward. Hours passed. The labor was long and difficult. I felt utterly alone. My best friend, Sarah, lived 2 hours away. My parents were on vacation, a cruise they had been planning for years. They were unreachable. I had relied on Mark, and he had failed me in the most spectacular way possible. In the quiet moments between contractions, I stared at the ceiling and thought about my baby. This little person was coming into the world, and their father had locked their mother out of the house. What kind of life was I bringing them into? Then something shifted inside me. The fear and the pain were still there, but something else was growing alongside them. It was a cold, clear resolve. This would not be my life. This would not be my child's life. I would not be a victim in my own story. They thought they could break me. They were wrong. They had just shown me exactly who they were. And I believed them. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the moment came. The doctor told me it was time to push. I pushed with everything I had. I pushed with the pain of the contractions. I pushed with the pain of their betrayal. I pushed with the fury that was now burning in my veins. And then I heard it, a small, perfect cry. My daughter was born. A nurse placed her on my chest, a tiny, wriggling bundle of warmth and life. I looked at her perfect face, her dark hair, her tiny fingers curled around mine. And in that moment I knew. It was her and me. We were a team. And I would do anything to protect her. I held her close, tears of exhaustion and love and rage streaming down my face. I was a mother now. And my first act as a mother would be to protect my child from the two people who were supposed to love her most. My husband and her grandmother. A few hours later, after I had been moved to a recovery room, a nurse came in with a small smile. "You have some visitors," she said. My heart seized. It was them. Mark and Carol walked in, their faces arranged in masks of concern. Mark was holding a bouquet of cheap gas station flowers. Carol was clutching a giant teddy bear. They looked like a caricature of a happy family. "Honey," Mark said, rushing to my bedside. "We were so worried. We came as soon as we heard."
My phone was on silent.
"We did not hear you." He leaned in to kiss me, but I turned my head away. His face fell. "What is wrong?" he asked. "Where were you, Mark?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "We were at home," he said, glancing at his mother. "We were watching a movie. We did not hear the doorbell. It must be broken." Carol chimed in, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "We feel just terrible, dear. When we finally saw the missed calls, we rushed right over. You should have knocked louder." They were lying. They were standing right there, lying to my face after what they had done. The rage I had been holding back surged forward. I looked from his face to hers. They were a united front, a team, and I was the enemy. I took a deep breath. "My water broke on the front lawn," I said, my voice steady. I banged on the door. I screamed your name. You were inside. You ignored me. "No, honey, you must be mistaken," Mark said, trying to take my hand. I pulled it away. "You know how you get. The doctor called it Braxton Hicks last week. We thought maybe you were just having another false alarm." "You thought I was having a false alarm, so you locked me out of the house in the cold?" I asked, my voice rising. "The door locks automatically sometimes," Carol said smoothly. "It is a faulty mechanism. We have been meaning to get it fixed."
Lies.
All of it. One lie piled on top of another. They had their story rehearsed. They were going to gaslight me into believing I was crazy, that I was the one who had misunderstood. But I had something they did not know about yet. While I was in the throes of labor, a nurse had brought me my belongings, which had been in a bag dropped off by Mrs. Gable. My purse was there, and my phone was inside. I had dozens of missed calls and texts, but there was one text that stood out. It was from Mark. It had come through about 15 minutes after I had been locked out. He must have sent it and then put his phone on silent. But he had made a mistake. A very big mistake. He had sent it to me instead of his mother. I picked up my phone from the bedside table. I opened the message. I held it up for him to see. His face went pale. Carol craned her neck to read it. Her smug expression dissolved into one of pure shock. The text said, "She's probably just having Braxton Hicks again. Let her learn her lesson about being so dramatic. We'll check on her in an hour." I watched the color drain from Mark's face. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked at his mother, a desperate, pleading look in his eyes. For once, Carol was silent. She stared at the phone as if it were a snake. They were caught. There were no more lies they could tell. There was no way to spin this. It was right there, in black and white. Let her learn her lesson. You wanted to teach me a lesson? I said, my voice shaking with a fury so cold it burned. You left me, in labor on the front lawn, to teach me a lesson? Mark finally found his voice. It was a joke, he stammered. It was a stupid joke. I was just venting to Mom. I did not mean it. A joke. I repeated, my voice incredulous. You think this is a joke? I could have had my baby on the pavement. Anything could have happened. And you were inside, watching a movie, waiting for me to learn my lesson. It was my idea, Carol said suddenly, her voice sharp. He did not want to do it. I told him you were being hysterical all week and that you needed to be shown that you cannot throw a tantrum every time you do not get your way.
Insistent.
She was admitting it. She was even proud of it. She was trying to protect her son by taking the blame, but all she was doing was confirming what a monster she was. And he was just as monstrous for going along with it. So you admit it, I said, my voice low. You locked me out on purpose. You needed to be brought down a peg, she said, her chin jutting out defiantly. You have been insufferable since you got pregnant. So high and mighty, thinking you know everything. Mark looked horrified. Mom, stop, he hissed. No, she said, turning on him. She needs to hear it. This is what happens when you marry a woman with no respect for her elders. She thinks she can run the whole show. I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. This was it. This was the moment of clarity. There was no going back from this. There was no working it out. They had shown me their true colors, and they were ugly and hateful. I looked at Mark. Get out, I said. He blinked. What? Get out of my room, I said, my voice as hard as steel. Both of you. Get out now. But the baby, he said, his eyes flicking to the small bassinet beside my bed. I want to see my daughter. No, I said. You do not get to see her. You do not get to hold her. You gave up that right when you left her mother to give birth on the street. Now get out. He looked like I had slapped him. You cannot do that, he whispered. I am her father. A father would not have done what you did, I said. Now leave. Before I call security. Carol scoffed. You are being ridiculous. This is a family matter. You are not my family, I said, looking directly at her. You are a cruel, spiteful woman. And you, I said, turning to Mark, are a weak, pathetic excuse for a man. You let her do this. You helped her. You are just as guilty. Tears were welling in Mark's eyes. I am sorry, he said, his voice breaking.
I am so sorry.
I made a mistake. It was not a mistake, I said. It was a choice. You chose her over me. You chose her over your own child. And now you have to live with that choice. I pressed the call button for the nurse. When she appeared in the doorway, I pointed to Mark and Carol. They need to leave, I said. They are not welcome here. The nurse, a stern-looking woman with no-nonsense eyes, sized up the situation instantly. You heard her, she said to them. Visiting hours are over for you. Mark looked at me one last time, his face a mask of desperation. Please, he mouthed. I turned my head and looked at my daughter. She was sleeping peacefully, oblivious to the storm that had just broken around her. She was all that mattered now. I heard their footsteps retreating down the hall. I heard Carol muttering under her breath. And then there was silence. I was alone with my baby. And for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. The next morning, my best friend Sarah arrived. She had driven through the night as soon as she got my text. She burst into the room, her face etched with worry, which melted into relief when she saw me and the baby. "Oh my God," she said, rushing to my side and enveloping me in a careful hug. "Are you okay? Is she okay?" I came as fast as I could. I burst into tears, the tension and fear of the last 24 hours finally breaking. I told her everything. The locked door, the unanswered calls, the neighbor's help, the text message, the confrontation. She listened, her expression growing darker with every word. When I was finished, she was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "I am going to kill him. I am literally going to drive to your house and kill him and his mother." I managed a weak smile. "Get in line," I said. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice serious. "You cannot go back there. Not with them in that house." "I know," I said. "But the house is mine. It was my inheritance from my grandmother. Mark's name is not on the deed." Sarah's eyes lit up. "No way," she said. "Are you serious?" "Completely," I said. "He wanted me to add him after we got married, but I never got around to it. My grandmother always told me to protect my assets. I guess I should have listened to her about husbands, too." A plan began to form in my mind, a clear and simple path forward. "I need your help," I told Sarah. "I need you to go to the house. I need you to pack a bag for me and the baby. And I need you to check on something." "Anything," she said, her eyes determined. "Just tell me what to do." I gave her my spare key, the one I kept hidden in my wallet. "They will probably be out trying to figure out their next move. Go in. Pack all the baby's essentials. The clothes from the nursery, the diapers, the formula. And pack a bag for me. Some comfortable clothes, toiletries. The important stuff." "Got it," she said. "And one more thing," I said, my voice hardening. "While you are in the nursery, take pictures. Take pictures of everything. I have a feeling Carol has not been idle." Sarah nodded, understanding immediately. "I will call you as soon as I am done," she said. She gave me one more hug, kissed the baby's forehead, and left with a look of grim purpose on her face. I spent the next few hours with my daughter, trying to focus on her. But my mind was racing. I was thinking about the house. My grandmother had left it to me. It was my sanctuary, the only place I had ever felt truly at home. And they had turned it into a prison. They had taken that from me. I was determined to take it back. My phone buzzed. It was Sarah. I answered immediately. "Did you get in?" I asked. "I am in," she said, her voice tight with anger. "You are not going to believe this. The nursery. It is different." "What do you mean, different?" I asked, a sense of dread creeping over me. "The crib," she said. "The one you loved, it is gone. It has been replaced with this hideous, bright yellow thing. And the walls. They are not the soft gray you painted. They are covered in this awful wallpaper with cartoon animals. And all the clothes you bought, they are gone. The drawers are filled with frilly, pink dresses. It looks like a completely different room. It looks like her room." I closed my eyes. Of course. She had not waited. She had started erasing me before the baby was even born. She had redecorated my child's room to her own tacky taste, throwing out the things I had chosen with so much love and care. "Take pictures, Sarah," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Take pictures of every single thing. The new crib, the wallpaper, the clothes. Get close-ups. Document everything." "I am already on it," she said. "This is insane. She is a monster." "I know," I said. "Pack the bags and get out of there. I do not want you to run into them." "Don't worry," she said. "I will be quick. I will see you in a couple of hours." After I hung up, I made another call. This one was to my parents. They had just gotten off the cruise ship and had cell service again. My mom answered, her voice cheerful. "Hi, sweetie," she said. "We were just about to call you. Any news?" My voice broke as I started to speak. "Mom," I sobbed. "The baby is here. It is a girl." "Oh, honey, that is wonderful," she said, her voice filled with joy. Then she seemed to notice the sound of my voice. What is wrong? You are crying. Is everything okay? I told them everything. The whole sordid story. My dad got on the extension, and I could hear my mom's horrified gasps in the background. When I finished, there was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then my dad's voice came on, and it was a voice I had not heard since I was a child who had been pushed down on the playground. It was cold, hard, and furious. Where are you? He asked. I told him the name of the hospital. We are on our way, he said. We will be there as soon as we can get a flight. Do not go anywhere.
Do not talk to him.
Do not let him or his mother near you or our granddaughter. Do you understand? I understand, I whispered. We love you, he said. We are so sorry this happened. We are coming. Hanging up the phone, I felt a wave of relief. My parents were coming. I was not alone anymore. I had my friend. I had my parents. I had my daughter. That was my family, not the two people who had hurt me so deeply. Sarah arrived a few hours later, her car loaded with bags. She helped me get settled, arranging the baby's things and making sure I was comfortable. She showed me the pictures she had taken of the nursery. It was worse than I had imagined. It was a monument to Carol's ego, a garish, tasteless room that had nothing to do with me or what I wanted for my child. The pictures were another piece of evidence, another nail in the coffin of my marriage. We spent the rest of the day talking, planning. Sarah was a rock, practical and supportive. She helped me draft a text to Mark. It was simple and to the point. I am not coming home.
Do not try to contact me.
I will be in touch through my lawyer. I sent it. Almost immediately, my phone started ringing. It was him. I ignored it. He called again. I ignored it. Then the text started. A flood of them. Begging, pleading, apologizing. Then, when I did not respond, they turned angry. How can you do this to me? One read. You are stealing my daughter from me. Another one said, my mom was right about you. You are a cold, heartless bitch. I showed them to Sarah. She just shook her head. He is unbelievable, she said. He is the victim now? After what he did? It is what he does, I said. It is what they do. They twist everything. But I am not playing their game anymore. I blocked his number. I blocked Carol's number. I felt a sense of peace settle over me. For the first time in months, I could breathe. There was no one criticizing me, no one undermining me, no one making me feel like I was crazy. There was just the quiet hum of the hospital room, the gentle breathing of my daughter, and the comforting presence of my friend. My parents arrived the next day. My mom burst into tears when she saw the baby. My dad hugged me so tightly I thought my ribs would crack. They were a force of nature, a whirlwind of love and support. My dad immediately started making calls. He found me the best family lawyer in the state. He booked me into a hotel suite for when I was discharged from the hospital, a place where Mark could not find me. My mom went out and bought everything the baby and I could possibly need, replacing all the things Carol had thrown away. The lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Ms. Davis, met me at the hotel. I told her the entire story, showing her the text message and the pictures of the nursery. Her expression grew more and more grim. This is not just grounds for divorce, she said when I had finished. This is egregious emotional distress. What they did is beyond cruel. It is dangerous. We can use this. The text message is your smoking gun. His mother's admission at the hospital, if the nurse is willing to testify, is another. And the house being in your name. Well, that is the icing on the cake. What do I do now? I asked. For now, you do nothing, she said. You focus on your daughter. You let me handle them. The first step is to get them out of your house. I will draft a formal eviction notice. We will give them 72 hours to vacate the premises. If they refuse, we will get the police to escort them out. They will not go quietly, I said. They do not have a choice, Ms. Davis said, a thin, cold smile on her face. They have no legal right to be there. Mark is your husband, but he is not on the deed. He is a tenant. And his mother is a guest of that tenant. Your tenant. And you, the landlord, are evicting them. It is that simple. It felt good to have someone so strong and competent on my side. For months, I had been fighting a two-front war against Mark and Carol, and I had been losing. Now I had reinforcements. The next few days were a blur of baby care and legal strategy. My parents were amazing, taking care of me and their new granddaughter with tireless devotion. My dad handled all communication with Ms. Davis. My mom made sure I was eating and resting. I did not have to think about anything but healing and bonding with my baby. I named her Lily, after my grandmother, the one who had given me the house, my safe harbor. The eviction notice was served. As predicted, Mark and Carol did not take it well. My phone, which I had unblocked for Ms. Davis's sake, started blowing up again. This time, the messages were from a variety of unknown numbers. They were getting their friends and family to harass me. One text from a number I did not recognize said, "You are tearing this family apart over a misunderstanding. Carol loves you like a daughter." I laughed out loud. Like a daughter she wanted to see give birth on a front lawn, maybe. Ms. Davis was unperturbed. "Let them," she said. "It is all evidence of harassment. Keep records of every message." The 72 hours came and went. Mark sent one final, pleading text. "Please just talk to me. We can fix this. Do not do this to our family." Our family. The words were a mockery. Ms. Davis informed me that they had not vacated the property. "Okay," she said. "Time for phase 2. The next morning, I got ready. My dad was coming with me. Sarah was going to stay with my mom and Lily. I felt a tremor of fear, but I pushed it down. This was my house.
I was taking it back.
We met Ms. Davis and 2 police officers at the end of my street. We also met a locksmith. The plan was simple. The police would escort me to my door. I would inform the occupants that they needed to leave. The locksmith would change the locks. Ms. Davis would be there to handle any legal objections. As we walked up the driveway, I could see the curtains twitch. They knew we were coming. My heart was pounding. My dad put a steadying hand on my shoulder. "You can do this," he said. I took a deep breath and knocked on my own front door. For a long moment, there was no answer. Then the door opened a crack. Mark's face appeared. He looked tired and haggard. When he saw the police officers, his eyes widened in panic. "What is this?" he asked, his voice cracking. "I am here to take possession of my property, Mark," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "You were given notice to vacate. You have not complied. You and your mother need to leave now." The door flew open. Carol was standing behind him, her face a thunderous mask of rage. "You will do no such thing," she shrieked. "This is my son's house. You cannot just throw us out on the street." "Actually, she can," Ms. Davis said, stepping forward and holding up a document. "This is the deed to the house. It is solely in her name. This is a legal eviction. Officers, if they refuse to leave, they will be trespassing." One of the police officers, a large, imposing man, looked at Mark and Carol. "You heard the lady," he said, his voice a low rumble. "You need to gather your belongings and leave the premises." Mark looked at me, his eyes begging. "Honey, please," he said. "Do not do this. Think about our daughter. Think about our family." "I am thinking about my daughter," I said, my voice cold. "I am making sure she has a safe home, free from people who had hurt her mother. You had your chance to be a family, Mark. You threw it away when you locked that door." Carol lunged forward. "You ungrateful little witch," she screamed. "After everything I have done for you." The second officer stepped in her path, blocking her. "Ma'am, I am going to have to ask you to remain calm," he said. "Do not tell me to be calm," she spat. "This girl is trying to destroy my family." "You destroyed it yourself, Carol," I said. I turned to the locksmith. "You can begin," I said. The locksmith started working on the door, the sound of his drill cutting through the tense silence. Mark just stood there, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Carol continued to hurl insults at me, her voice getting more and more hysterical. I did not engage. I just stood there, watching as the tumblers of my old life were removed. It did not take long. The locksmith finished and handed me a new set of keys. They felt solid and real in my hand, a symbol of my freedom. "They can have 1 hour to remove their personal items," I said to the officer. "My father and I will wait outside. After that, anything left in the house will be considered abandoned." Mark finally seemed to snap out of his stupor. He and Carol rushed inside, and I could hear them crashing around, angrily throwing things into boxes. My dad and I stood on the lawn, the same lawn where I had been just a week ago, in agony and alone. Now I was in control. An hour later, they emerged, dragging suitcases and boxes behind them. Carol shot me a look of pure hatred. "You will regret this," she snarled. "I doubt it," I said calmly. Mark stopped in front of me. He looked broken. "Is this really it?" he asked, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Is it really over?" "It was over the moment you sent that text, Mark," I said. "It was over the moment you chose her."
Goodbye.
I turned and walked to my front door. I put the new key in the lock. It turned smoothly. I stepped inside. The house was a mess, but it was quiet. It was mine. I closed the door on their shocked faces, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was finally home. The aftermath was both messy and liberating. Mark and Carol did not go quietly into the night. They tried to wage a war of public opinion. Carol called every relative we had, spinning a tale of a cruel, postpartum crazed daughter-in-law who had thrown her loving husband and caring mother-in-law out onto the street for no reason. She painted me as unstable, vindictive, and mentally unwell. A few of the more distant relatives, the ones who only knew Mark's side of the family, sent me sanctimonious messages. An aunt of Mark's texted me, "Family is forever. You need to learn to forgive. Think of the baby." I sent her a screenshot of Mark's text message. I did not add any commentary. I just sent the picture. I never heard from her again. My parents and Sarah were my shield. They called our family and friends and told them the simple, unvarnished truth. She was in labor. They locked her out of the house on purpose to teach her a lesson. They admitted it, there was no defense against that. The story was so shocking, so fundamentally cruel, that it left no room for debate. Support for me was overwhelming. The smear campaign failed before it even began. The divorce was surprisingly fast. Ms. Davis was a shark. She used the evidence we had, the text, the nurse's statement about Carol's admission, the photos of the nursery, the records of the harassing phone calls, to paint a picture of extreme cruelty. Mark's lawyer advised him to settle quickly and quietly, warning him that if this went to a public court, the details would be humiliating. Mark fought for custody, of course. He claimed I was an unfit mother, that I was unstable and trying to alienate him from his child out of spite. Ms. Davis countered by filing a motion detailing the events of Lily's birth. She argued that a man who would deliberately lock his wife out of the house while she was in labor was not a safe or responsible parent. The judge agreed. Mark was granted supervised visitation twice a month at a designated facility. He was not to be alone with Lily, and Carol was barred from attending the visits altogether. It was a crushing defeat for them. I spent the next few months reclaiming my life. My parents stayed with me for a while, helping with the baby and the house. We purged every trace of Carol. We threw out the ugly nursery furniture and the frilly dresses. We repainted the walls back to the soft, soothing gray I had chosen. I found the wooden crib I had assembled. It had been dismantled and thrown in the garage. My dad helped me put it back together, and when we placed it in the nursery, I cried. It felt like I was finally setting things right. The house slowly began to feel like my own again. The silence was no longer tense and suffocating. It was peaceful. I could sit in my living room with my daughter sleeping on my chest and not feel a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I did not have to worry about someone criticizing my every move or second-guessing my parenting. I was free. I had a few conversations with some of Mark's family members who reached out to apologize. His father, a quiet man who had always been overshadowed by Carol, called me. "I am so sorry," he said, his voice heavy with shame. I had no idea she was capable of that. And for Mark to go along with it. I do not have words. It is not your fault, I said. I just want you to know, he continued, that not all of us are like them. I would love to be a part of my granddaughter's life, if you would ever allow it. I would respect any boundaries you set. It was a conversation I was not expecting. I told him I would think about it. For now, my priority was Lily's safety and my own peace of mind. One evening, a few months after the divorce was finalized, I was rocking Lily to sleep. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My heart jumped for a second, a phantom limb of my old anxiety. But I took a breath and looked. It was Mark. I know I am not supposed to contact you, the text read. But I just wanted to say I am sorry. I was weak. I let my mom control everything. I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. I hope one day you can forgive me. I read the message twice. It was the apology I had wanted to hear for months. The admission of weakness, the acceptance of blame. But as I looked at the words on the screen, I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, not even pity. It was just empty. His apology did not change what he had done. It did not erase the memory of me, alone and in pain on the cold ground. It did not fix the trust that he had shattered into a million pieces. I thought about what to write back. I could have been angry. I could have been gracious. In the end, I chose to be honest. I typed out a single sentence. I am not the person you should be apologizing to. I knew he would not understand. He would think I meant he should apologize to his mother, or to God, or someone else. But I meant Lily. He owed his apology to the daughter whose birth he had treated as an inconvenience, a joke, an opportunity to teach a lesson. I deleted the message thread and blocked the number. I looked down at my daughter, sleeping peacefully in my arms. Her little chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. In the quiet of the nursery, in the soft glow of the nightlight, I felt a profound sense of peace. My life was not what I had planned. I had thought I would be raising my daughter with her father in a happy, loving home. But the home I had imagined was a fantasy. The man I had married was not the man I thought he was. The betrayal had been devastating, but it had also been a gift. It had ripped off the blindfold and shown me the truth. I was a single mother, but I was not alone. I had a daughter who was my whole world. I had parents who loved me unconditionally. I had a friend who would drive through the night for me. I had a home that was a true sanctuary, a place of safety and peace. Sometimes I thought about Mark and Carol. I heard through the grapevine that they were living in a small apartment, that Carol was still controlling his life, and that Mark was miserable. I did not feel joy at their unhappiness. I just felt a quiet sense of justice. They had made their choices. They had shown who they were. And they were living with the consequences. I looked at the new keys hanging on a hook by the door. They were a constant reminder. A reminder of what I had survived. A reminder of the strength I had found when I had been pushed to my absolute limit. A reminder that sometimes the most important thing you can do is change the locks. You have to be willing to lock out the people who hurt you no matter who they are. You have to be willing to close one door to be able to open another. My new life was just beginning. It was quiet, and it was simple, and it was beautiful. It was a life built not on a fragile piece, but on a foundation of self-respect. I had fought for this life. I had earned it, and I would protect it and my daughter with everything I had. I received a final text from Mark a year later, on Lily's first birthday. It was from another new number. He must have been desperate to get through. "You destroyed our family," it said. The words were so full of self-pity, so completely devoid of self-awareness, that I almost laughed. He still did not get it. He still thought he was the victim. He still thought the family was him, me, and his mother, a toxic triangle of duty and resentment. He never understood that his definition of family required my submission. It required me to be small, to be quiet, to accept disrespect as a form of love. He was mourning the loss of a dynamic that was slowly killing my spirit. He was not mourning me, or the daughter he barely knew. He was mourning his comfort. I looked around the living room. My parents were there, setting up balloons. Sarah was on the floor, playing with Lily, who was giggling with delight as she tried to grab a colorful ribbon. My dad caught my eye and smiled, a warm, genuine smile that reached his eyes. This was my family, a group of people who celebrated me, supported me, and loved me without condition. A family where I did not have to fight for my place because my place was a given. It was secure. I looked at the text one more time. "You destroyed our family." I thought about my response. I could have listed all the ways he and his mother had destroyed it long before I changed the locks. I could have reminded him of the text message, the nursery, the lies. But what was the point? He was a black hole of blame. Nothing I said would ever penetrate his wall of self-pity. Instead, I looked at my daughter, my beautiful, happy 1-year-old. She was the future. She was the only thing that mattered. I held her in my arms, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair. No, I thought to myself. I did not destroy a family. I saved one. I saved her from a life of walking on eggshells. I saved her from a father who would teach her that a woman's feelings do not matter. I saved her from a grandmother who would see her as a pawn in a cruel game of control. I saved myself from a life of quiet desperation. The family he was fighting for did not include me as an equal partner. It did not even really include me as a person with needs and feelings. I was a vessel for his child, an accessory to his life with his mother. So I had built my own family, one that started with just me and my baby girl. And it started by closing the right door. The door to my house, the door to my heart, the door to a life that would have crushed me. And on the other side of that door, I had found not emptiness, but everything. I found peace. I found my strength. I found my true home. And I never, ever looked back. The silence from his side of the world became my favorite sound. It was the sound of freedom, the sound of a new beginning, the sound of a mother and daughter, safe and sound, finally at peace.